what is your last piece of advice you would want to give to the young mothers out there who got pregnant but are very timid and scared to go back to school?
Around my area, everyone knew I was a counselor. Like, I'm studying to be a lawyer. So it was a very good image. And now here you are, here pregnant. So someone had the guts to even tell my mom, mwala wa kusaze.
Imagine if you have been defiled.
Yeah.
Even when you have been given a second chance to re-enroll, are we providing psychosocial support?
Go back to school. All the people that you think are negative and saying things behind your back, just focus on the goal. Get done with school. It does not take forever. School is the fastest thing that can happen to you and the best decision that can happen to you.
Hi everyone, welcome to Reach a Hand Uganda, and today we are basing in the Reach a Hand offices in Lunguja. We have had a campaign for a full month, which is the Back to School campaign. But specifically, we are targeting young mothers who might have gotten pregnant and they are not comfortable enough to head back to school. You know, we have different people who have gone back to school and still prospered, and they are a testimony that when you get pregnant, it's not the end of the world, but it's just an effort for each and every one of us to see to it that young people, especially young mothers, have an opportunity for a safe environment to go back and educate themselves and improve their lives and be able to be the better persons in the country. And today I have important people who are going to tell us their stories and who are going to tell us these guidelines. We have a professional who is from the Ministry of Education and Sports, and we're so glad that the ministry has come on board for this. I'll give them a moment, they introduce themselves so that we can kick off this conversation. Yes, please.
Hi, my name is Nava Jamila. I am a young mom. Oh, I was a young mom. I am a young mom. I encourage young girls to stay in school. I share my experience as I was in school, juggling the whole pregnancy bit and staying in school. So I believe when you go through something, it's easier to tell someone about it and they may relate to you easier than someone who hasn't actually gone through it. So that's why I'm basing to fight teenage pregnancy. I really want to combat on it because it's really a challenge when it comes to the girl child.
Thank you so much, Nava.
Yes.
Yes, Madam Rosetta.
Thank you very much. My name is Rosette Nanyanzi. I work with the Ministry of Education and Sports. I'm the Gender Technical Advisor, and I've been part of a process to see the re-entry of child mothers, and I'll be glad to share where we are coming from and where we hope we can go.
Thank you so much. Starting with you, Madam Rosette, what are these guidelines?
Thank you very much. Maybe before I talk about the guidelines, we should be able to reflect on where we are coming from. As a country, for the last 10 years, we've been able to reduce teenage pregnancy by only 1%. So that's a challenge. But also during the period of COVID, we saw so many girls failing to return to school.
Sure.
Simply because they got pregnant. So, but prior to that, as a country, we had guidelines on prevention of HIV and teenage pregnancy. These are the guidelines that were revised in 2020. The guidelines of 2015 did not take into consideration the issue of re-entry of child mothers. They were talking about prevention and management. But how do we support this child to get back, aware that our constitution says everyone has a right to education. So if everyone has a right to education, even this child that has given birth still has that right to education. So during that time of COVID, when we saw cases of teenage pregnancy, and this was not data from our side, it was data that we picked from the Ministry of Health.
Yeah.
There were so many cases of girls showing up at antenatal care services, 13, 14, 15. And if we have a universal primary and universal secondary education program, These would be our stakeholders, but they are showing up at antenatal facilities to give birth. So that is the time we thought that we needed to review these guidelines to take into consideration the aspect of re-entry. That process was consultative. We engaged different stakeholders and we came up with the guidelines. These guidelines are in 3 sets. 1, guidelines for prevention of teenage pregnancy. Then guidelines for management of teenage pregnancy in a school setting. And lastly, guidelines for re-entry of the child mothers. So these guidelines actually give us, government of Uganda, but also the different partners, an opportunity to engage at different levels.
Sure.
For instance, when we talk about prevention, what is it that we want to do at the school level? Let's provide these young people with information. That is the starting point. They should be able to know what is happening to their bodies.
Sure.
That is 1. They need to be supported to manage this transition, because this is a transition. You're not going to be an adolescent all the time.
Sure.
But how do you manage this stage determines your future. So that information, we should be able to talk about some of the challenges like menstrual hygiene management. We should be able to talk about GBV and where to report so that this person gets the information. But along the way, we have also seen sometimes as we are passing on information, sometimes these young people say, maybe you're expired. You don't know what I'm going through. You get it?
Yeah.
True,
But
true,
when
true.
you use the peer-to-peer, they'll be able to have someone of their age to
Yeah.
open up to.
True.
So it is something that we can do to prevent, empower young people with life skills so that they can be able to make decisions concerning their life. And that is what we are doing for prevention, but also to ensure that we revive the school family initiative. Many of our children come from families, either they don't lack information or they are internally displaced. You have a mother and a father who are internally displaced in their own house.
True.
They leave at 6, return
At 10.
at midnight, sometimes when they have been attending swallowships. So when do they get an opportunity to speak to these young people? That's why when we have a school family initiative where we have a teacher, we have older siblings, maybe those boys and girls in upper classes, they should be able to speak to these young ones so that we can be able to address these issues of teenage pregnancy. When it comes to management, yes, we have done all that, but the child shows up and they are pregnant. How do we manage that situation?
True.
It is a very traumatizing step. 1, the child who is pregnant, and sometimes they don't even know that they are pregnant.
Yes.
But also it is traumatizing to the parent who has been paying school fees and providing everything.
Yeah.
It is traumatizing to the teachers because maybe was our best
The
student.
student. True.
We had so many hopes in them and they are now pregnant. So the process of management requires us to have counseling. 1, to the parent. The parents need to be counseled, first of all, to appreciate that this has happened, but it's not the end of the world. This child is not dead. In our education institutions,
Yes.
we have challenges. Sometimes we don't even have chairs. The environment is not so safe for a child who is pregnant. That's why we are saying at 3 months, please go home, manage this pregnancy, come back after 6 months so that you can resume. And as they are returning, we are talking about creating a safe learning environment, ensuring that we provide remedial lessons to this child because they have been away for almost a year.
Yeah.
How do we help them to catch up? So all those things are, and then ensuring that beyond what we have given, we are able to talk about feeding, how are they accessing other services. For instance, for the baby, nutrition services, vaccination and immunization. How do we do it? So there is a lot of work that is involved to support the implementation of these guidelines. And when you look at all those things I've mentioned, it is not the Ministry of Education alone. It requires a multi-sectoral approach. All of us have a role to play. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Madam Rosette. Nava, as we're kicking off this conversation, you mentioned something that caught my ear. Would you want to share that story with us?
So finding out I was pregnant, I was definitely shocked, despite knowing that the actions that you're doing will lead to something that you may not be ready for.
Sure.
So I was scared. I was definitely scared because I didn't have money, because finance is really important when you're going to have a child. I was still in school, doing law. Law is not something easy that you just play with. Yeah, but one of the things that I'm really grateful for is that I had the support of my mother. Yes, when I shared with her, of course, she was very disappointed, very, very, very disappointed. But she did not go away, like she did not turn her back on me. She stayed with me through the whole process. I really gave up on myself because I didn't understand now what to do. I don't have anything. I'm still being taken care of. And here I am. I'm pregnant. I still have to go to school. You're dozing throughout. Actually, my exams that year while I was pregnant, I think I performed the worst. Though I'm so grateful I didn't get a retake. I don't know. Around my area, everyone knew I was a counselor. Yeah? Like I'm studying to be a lawyer.
Exactly.
So it was a very good image. And now here you are, here pregnant. So someone had the guts to even tell my mom, mwala wa kusaze.
Oh,
Yeah. So, and she told me that, I remember. And when you're pregnant, the emotions are
up there.
Yeah. So someone is even going to, it's too much. Like, I don't wish a young girl to go through it. So when I looked at what I went through, it always took me back to a young girl. And I'm like, now, a 14-year-old, a 13-year-old getting pregnant, me, a 23-year-old, it's a burden. Like, it's, now what about a young person?
When you look at this issue of teenage pregnancy, most cases when we are having conversation on this, it is the girls that are victims that we front.
True.
Which is very wrong. Where are the perpetrators? Can we turn them into allies? Where are they? In most of the spaces where we expect them to be, they're not. Men are no longer attending school meetings. They're not attending community meetings. They're not in church. So we need to be very innovative on getting to the spaces where the men are, so that we target them not as perpetrators this time, but as allies. And I think that is something that we are not doing very well. At the school level, we appreciate the teachers that we have are also coming from the community. They have their own stereotypes, they have their own way of looking at things, but they also have deep-rooted religious and cultural beliefs that you cannot easily uproot. So we need to deal with the teacher to make sure that we talk about all these issues, open conversations. What the teacher needs information, not just on prevention. They need to know, what does the law say? What does the policy say?
Yes.
But how do we meet them? When we go, we talk about teenage pregnancy. But what does the Constitution say? What does the Education Act say? So that they are engaging, because we expect them to interface with the parent and the learner. Do they have information? So I think that is an area where we have not done very well. When it comes to management, I think the issue of just sending the child away because they are pregnant is not right.
Yeah.
This child needs to be counseled. Even when they are returning, imagine if you have been defiled.
Yeah.
Even when you have been given a second chance to re-enroll, are we providing psychosocial support? I think that is also an area which we need to strengthen. That is not just about providing guidance and counseling. It's not about telling the girl to get back. We need to do more. 3, these children that have become pregnant, if you were a child that was challenged by getting a pad, now it is a pair. The baby needs milk and you need the scholastic materials, and the pad is consistent. So how are we supporting this child? So that means that we need to do a lot of work, and here I appreciate the government of Uganda for the different economic empowerment programs, so that these children can actually have a fallback position, that you know that yes, I'm coming back to school, but my child will have milk. So economic empowerment of families is very critical. So we need to strengthen parenting programs to be able to make parents know that even when the child gets pregnant, they are still your child.
Yes.
And you need to support them.
That I would want to add on that.
Yes.
Mostly that part of parents. Yeah. It is very important for a parent to know that, yes, my child is pregnant and they have messed up, but the biggest support they need is you, because they do not stop being your children. And we have seen so many people chase their children away, and then later when things get harder where they have gone, they still come back home and they receive them. So in the very first place, if you had supported them and not pushed them away and still stayed with them and encouraged them to go back to school, it would be a benefit. I know it can really be traumatizing to parents, but I think for that moment when you find out that your child is pregnant, send them to an auntie or an uncle and tell them, let them be there, just to show an example to the rest that what they have done is not okay, but let the support still come in. I was doing some research on other countries, how they handle teenage pregnancies. And most developed countries, actually, they don't really send the girls out of school. They actually continue going to school with, even South Africa here, where most of us even want to go and do our masters and all as a developed country, they don't refuse girls to go to school while pregnant. I'm not saying it's the best rescue program that we need right now, but I feel like we should stop treating pregnancy like
It's a
something that is so bad. I don't think they're worse than murderers, because it's someone bringing in life. So how you treat them immediately when they're pregnant, and it affects them a lot.
I find the systems in school are very harsh to the students. Very harsh. To one extent that a student is either expelled in front of the whole school to show an example, and this student can never interact with any of them
when they're back.
Yeah, because everyone doesn't want to be seen with such kind of a person. And the conversations that take place in the staff rooms are even worse. So we end up not having them come back at all.
True.
Because they know they're not going to be welcomed and received. And I'm asking, Madam Rosette, are schools having these guidelines? Is each school having this guideline and knowing that?
I think it's an issue of about awareness. Awareness which has to be continuous. I think if we lose hope now, so some of us who are Christians, we've been waiting for Jesus for the last so many thousands of years.
Very
and
true.
I know that one day, one time,
He will come.
our schools will be safe. For me, I know that we are on the right track. Let's continue creating awareness. As Ministry of Education, we have had our bit of doing this. We have disseminated to the guidelines up to the level where we are expected. Because our mandate, we stop somewhere. We are running a decentralized education system. So that means that when we pass on information to the district education officers, it is their role to pass this information to the teachers. But even the teachers, some of them have received this information. But like I've said, we have the deep-rooted social norms that even when you disseminate this, I'll go back and say they're just joking. For us, we are this. We're not going to change. So a lot of sensitization, the how, is also very important. For me, who is a Christian, every time I go to church, the first thing is to read a scripture. That is the starting point. And then we have the preaching after the scripture. For us, when we go in those spaces, in the community, with the head teachers, what do? I think we start, this teenage pregnancy. What does the law say? If the Constitution says that everyone has a right to education, which education should be provided in a safe and conducive environment. If we have been able to reduce teenage pregnancy by just 1% in the last 10 years, isn't that good evidence for us to actually make people feel annoyed? That means that they will do more to prevent. They will see that they will empower young people with life skills. They will see that they support, they provide guidance and counseling. Because if we don't do this, if we just go and talk, it's like they will say, these are emotional beings. Let's go with evidence so that we can build a case and make people feel annoyed. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Madam Razat. Back to you, Nava. Just now, basing on the conversation we've had during that time, were there people, except your mom, because you mentioned she was your biggest support system?
Yeah.
Did you have any other person, maybe in the school, let me start with the school administration, who was willing to be as a support system as your mother? To see that, today she did her TED lectures, now let me call to know how she is. Did you have that kind of bit?
Mostly it was my fellow students. Yeah, they were really supportive. I can't even deny that. But for the lecturers, I think, everyone believes when you're at university, probably you're old enough to know what you're doing. So, yeah, I don't remember that really.
Okay, because I need, why I asked that, because at the end of it all, we're still students.
Yes.
And I've seen at a level of university that I'm in that actually lecturers traumatize students. And they're always saying these words of, instead, we're here doing coursework and what were you doing? You were in bed. Right now, you see the results are being shown, and you'd find that now as Madame Rosette mentioned, we need psychosocial support for them.
Yes.
Which we never offer.
I go to, you see, even at my workplace, they give us psychosocial support after you've had a child. Because motherhood really comes with so much. So before you give birth, you have a session. When you're home, you have a session. When you come back, you have a session. So you can imagine those working women are getting those sessions, not about the young people. I know if someone is traumatizing you with insults and you're pregnant and you're not ready, so you can imagine what goes in someone's mind.
Earlier, before we started the podcast, we had this conversation with you again, Nava, where you mentioned that you speak to different young people. How has that process been helpful?
So like I've told you, my experience bleeds for the young people. So I think about, I know the boys should also be called upon and all, but teenage pregnancy really poses a girl's life. It can easily pose your life. Yeah. So in my community, that's Chiwatule, the young girls that I know, I tell them to invite the other girls that they know. So I have them at my home. I posted pictures on my Instagram, and we share and we talk. And I talk to them about the reality of getting pregnant. I've advised them thoroughly. I have told them, you will have a boyfriend who's going to give you mandazis and all. But now when the baby comes, you have to buy Pampers and you have to buy milk. It's another financial experience. And even those boys that were calling you around to give you those mandazis will not appear anymore. So even if you're coming from a poor family, you're going to give yourself another financial burden. Apparently, you're just one and you think you're going through a lot, but with another child. So these things actually stick to their minds.
True.
So that's why I say when you've gone through something, it is easier to tell people
Mm.
and they will listen to you.
True.
Because I get feedbacks from them, because we had another session that I didn't post pictures, and I really had positive reactions from them. They were really...
In these sessions, do you have do you ever get teenage mothers?
I hadn't yet gone to the teenage mothers yet, because I'm just really starting up. Yeah, but I really want to talk to the teenage mothers as well, to encourage them, because I believe if I am to encourage them, they'll know that I also went through it. So they will know it's actually not the end of the world. You just brought life. Yes, maybe you didn't do it at the right time, but you brought in life. It's not a crime. Because from time immemorial, these things have happened. You remember?
Yes.
When you read through history, they used to throw that girl over the cliff if she was found pregnant.
And take you to the forest.
Yeah, those were our ancestors. And now it's 2025 and girls are still getting pregnant. So clearly there is no solution. Like, all the solutions that have been embodied are not really working. Like, that solution of taking away the girl's education just because she's pregnant, I don't really find it essential.
Thank you so much. Madam Rosette, are there any specific resources that are available for these young people to be able to get back to school or to be able to prevail in the different communities?
Of course, for me as Minister of Education, our work stops in the... What we do is mainly consumed in education institutions. But I think we need to work more with the Ministry of Gender, Labour and Social Development, so that we are able to target sometimes the people who make these girls pregnant out of school, adolescents. So they equally need information. As Minister of Education, the number of resources that we have developed, we have developed a life skills toolkit. We have the sexuality education framework, which we are revising currently. We have readers on understanding and managing menstruation, prevention of violence, so that readers on mental health and psychosocial support, on drug abuse, so that young people are able to get this information. That aside, we encourage young people to belong to clubs. Through those clubs, they can be able to speak about these issues, listening to the others, but also it builds their skills to be able to participate in issues that concerning them. And we have already revived the School Family Initiative. We believe that through that opportunity, young people can be able to interact with the parents within the school, so that they open up and speak about these issues. All of us have a role to play, and I believe that if we all strengthen our efforts, one day, one time, we'll be able to reduce teenage pregnancy to at least 1%.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Madam Rosette. Nava, is there in the whole, I know you mentioned the traumatizing bit, but what was the most challenging bit?
Finance.
Yeah.
Finance, because I had a second baby. She's 6 months, but while I'm working, I didn't get that whole stress. You get, because I don't know, I am not bothered that, I have to go to school, they've seen me, and I know my income is coming in, so it has been smooth. I've had so compared to how everyone treated me in the beginning for my firstborn, I couldn't take it. I didn't even want people to come see my child. Like, anyone who I had an idea that they said something, I didn't want them to check on me or anything. You understand? So finance is really, really, really important. So how do you get to that point when you're not yet done with school?
Great, you mentioned something. So after giving birth to the child, let me say now the child is like 4 or 5. Do these conversations still pop up and they still be like, "Oh, Mama, you're not telling me," you know, those things?
Maybe the people, no.
Because
maybe the people I study with, yeah, they call him their first degree. Yeah.
That is so funny. Because community still, even when someone has succeeded and they have finished school, they have gone back to school, community always stings you again. It's there like to remind you are bad. We
You
don't
did something
want
bad.
you.
Yeah.
Don't go close to our children. How best can you advise us, the people of the community? How best can we educate them?
We have had enough of the girl talk. Can we talk to the men? Because, by the way, in all these things, men are beneficiaries of teenage pregnancy. When you cannot go back to school, it will be child marriage.
Yeah.
So they will benefit in dowry. But also, even when you produce a child, they benefit in naming the child. So why are we leaving them behind? I think time has come for us to really bring them closer into these conversations. They should know the implications when this child gets pregnant. What happens if your parents are saying, you go to the man who made you pregnant? The man is 14 years. You get it? If you've been taken into child marriage, they will still call you Muchala. They are not sure. Maybe you're a visitor or you are there. So it's important that as we deal with these issues, let's get ways of dealing with men and working with them to change the status quo.
Can I add
Yes, you can.
I volunteered with an organization. It has a branch in Leantonde. And I remember what they do, they keep these young moms and they help them to go through that whole process until they have the child, because they don't have the support. So they encourage them, and after they give them a skill that can help them go through. So I remember there was this scenario of this young girl who was defiled by this gentleman who kept using her and told her, these are the herbs you use. After I just put them under, you will not get pregnant. I don't know if he told, okay, maybe I'm not getting the story right, but what I know, she was using the herbs every after that session. Like just normal weeds that grow around. Yeah, so she gets pregnant. They're very, very, she gets pregnant. And of course the mom, then they ask her, who got you pregnant? Who have you been sleeping with? So she points at this gentleman, and everyone says he has actually been sleeping with many girls around here.
Oh my.
And he's arrested and he's given 2 years, and the judge says that he can't spend so much time in jail because who will take care of this kid? This man has to come out. So what example is the justice giving to the country at large? So even the justice has failed us. They're not punishing these men. Because even if this man comes out, he's not even taking care of the
child.
The girl now. It's still an organization taking care of this girl. So how sure are we that after he has served, he's going to come out and take care of? So I feel like even the justice system has really failed us.
I think I cannot conclude that they have failed us. You might find that very family that had actually put this man in prison were now the ones advocating for him to get out. I've seen cases which have been reported, and then the parent of the girl goes to police and says, let's settle out of police. And then they give them something. So equally with the court system, that is what happens. So I think we need to engage at different levels. What are we doing with the police? What are we doing with the legislature? So that it is not just making sure that this child goes back to school or gets a skill. Can we see that the referral pathway is clean and can be able to handle these cases? Because sometimes I feel bad. When you look at the cases we have at the health facilities, girls showing up 15, 14 pregnant, and the cases reported at the Uganda Police Force, that crime report. Do you see a very big difference? That shows you that even the reporting sometimes doesn't happen. We settle out there. So we need to engage to make sure that cases are reported and handled to conclusion.
Thank you so much. Nava, as we come to this conclusion of this beautiful conversation, what is your last piece of advice you would want to give to the young mothers out there who got pregnant but are very timid and scared to go back to school?
To the young mothers out there that are timid and scared to go back to school, I want to let you know that you're not young forever and time flies. Before you know it, your child is 5, your child is 10, and you look back and say, I wish I actually went back to school. Look at all this time it has passed. And the people we go to school with right now, I don't even think I've seen them. Like, I'm not seeing any of them, even if they were to laugh at me by now. We're not in the same spaces. So do not be scared of going back to school. Go back to school. All the people that you think are negative and saying things behind your back, just focus on the goal. Get done with school. It does not take forever. School is the fastest thing that can happen to you and the best decision that can happen to you. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Yes, Madam Nozet.
Now, for me, I would tell the girls to go back. Let's take advantage of these guidelines. Let's re-enroll. It doesn't matter where, but make sure that you go back to school. That's the only opportunity you have in life to be able to even support yourself. Thank you.
Thank you so much. As we come to a conclusion of this podcast, I would want to thank Reach a Hand Uganda for this back to school campaign, that they have brought this forward, and they're encouraging all the young students, girls out there who would have dropped out of school during COVID due to GBV, due to poverty, due to the different things, menstruation. This is your time to enroll back to school. We have different people who are supporting you, who are at the back of you, and are encouraging you to go back to school. And also want to thank all the people who have seen to it that this campaign has come to a success. As Reach a Hand Uganda and Sauti Plus Media Hub, we'll continue to bring out these different conversations to see that the policymakers, the people in government, the stakeholders, you all come together and work together, because the Ministry of Education cannot work alone without the people who are being affected, without the community members, the cultural leaders, the religious leaders. This is a fight that we have to take on as a team, as a nation, to see to it that all mothers get back to school. And that teenage pregnancy is an old folk song. I remain Nanzri Elizabeth, and this is Reach a Hand Uganda.